Book writing strategies. Are you a pantser, an outliner, or somewhere in between? One is not better than the other. They're all equally good. It's just important that you figure out who you are. Well, welcome to another session of Walking with Randy, although it's awfully hot outside, so I guess this one is Writing with Randy. So I just want to encourage you today, those of us that are writers, that you need to find what your style is and what works for you. Are you an outliner, a pantser, or somewhere in between? Now, an outliner is someone who plans out the project ahead of time and develops an outline. A pantser is someone who writes from the seat of his pants, or the seat of her pants. And they're able to just start writing and just go, and they have a lot of good success with doing that. Or you may be somewhere in between. I remember whenever I was in high school and grade school, they would ask us to write a paper, and then they would want us to give them an outline. So they were trying to teach us how to be outliners and how to write from an outline. Although maybe I was a little bit more of a pantser, or maybe I just didn't like to plan that much. But sometimes I would write the paper first, and then I would go back and make up the outline from the paper. And that's sort of like how a pantser works. Although I don't consider myself that much in that great detail. Now, I have also learned the value of planning your project before you write it, so I would be more inclined to do at least some type of outline first before I wrote nowadays. But let's think about an outliner. An outliner can be a very extensive outliner. That may be a person who would write complete sentences for all the main points. And then they would write complete sentences for all the subpoints. And then they would write complete sentences for all the sub-points, and so forth. And by the time that had that done, they would have a lot of words already. They knew what direction they were going, and knew how they would end. And so all they have to do is just go in and fill that out some. Now, a pantser would have an idea of where he's going and would just take off writing and keep writing toward the end in view. And one who's really good at it, that's all they need to do. Ups and downs and twists and turns that the writing project would take in between, it would just come naturally to them. In speaking of outliners again, some of them would be very detailed. Some would be not quite so detailed. Some may just have complete sentences for the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 main points, and then they might just have phrases or words for the sub-points, and maybe just words for the sub-points. Or they may just have words for the main points and just single words for the sub-points, and so forth. It is whatever works for them, but they still have a pretty detailed plan before they start. Then a pantser would have the end in view, a true pantser, who would have the natural ability to go up and down and use literary devices as they work. And then there is the person who is somewhere in between. In the area of writing fiction, Randy Ingermanson has developed a method that's called the snowflake method. That would be in between the two. I consider myself to be sort of in between, although I lean more toward a plan than I used to, certainly. But let me give you some ideas if you are an in-betweener. If you are a fiction writer, you might have a story that goes something like this. There was a character, you described a character, who had a problem. You would describe the problem. then you could have like 3 or more, or say 3 major disasters that were going to happen. First one would be in the first part of the story. You come to a major disaster. Maybe you overcome it, maybe not, but it leads to another one. And then you build that as you continue working on trying to solve the problem. So then the second major disaster would be about halfway through. Another major disaster about 3/4 of the way through. And then you have the resolution, you have the climax, you have the ending, and then you tie up the loose ends at the end. So, if you're a fiction writer and you want to have the in-between the outline and being a pantser, you might think of maybe your 3 major disasters and know how the resolution is going to come about. If you are a nonfiction writer, instead of having major disasters that you come to, you will have either steps to a solution of the problem, or you will have different solutions to the problem, different ways of solving the problem. So you would want to have at least the idea of what the problem is in view, and you would want to have sentences or keywords that would remind you of what you know to be the solution or the steps to the solution of that problem. And so that would be an in-between method for nonfiction writing. And I fall somewhere in that in-between method and maybe a little bit more to the outlining portion. And or some of you know of a different type of blueprint that you can do with 12 to 15 ideas, turn those into questions, and have bullet points related to the questions. That's closer to an in-depth outline idea, but it still allows your creativity to just flow as you go through doing that. So I hope these have been helpful to you. If you would like more tips like these, I would urge you to go to randycarney.com and click on the Writing tab, and you'll find many more posts like these, and many of them including videos. You could also subscribe to my YouTube channel or subscribe to my Rumble channel, and you can get more tips like these there. I also have a book. It's called How to Write a Book in 28 Days or Less Without Stressing Yourself to Death. And it gives 3 different methods of being able to write a book, even if you've never done so before. And so I'd encourage you to look that up on Amazon.com. And pretty soon I'm going to be releasing a free Writer's Roadmap to Success. When you go to the website, look for that. It's coming soon. I hope you have a great day, and until next time, this is Randy Carney for Walking with Randy, reminding you that you can write a book.